Amir Eshel, was the son of Yechezkel Eshel, an Iraqi Jew who immigrated to Palestine in 1936. His mother, Edna, was a Holocaust survivor from Russia who survived the death camps and eventually made her way to Palestine. They both had the misfortune of being from the last generation of Jews who could not defend themselves. Their son Amir was born in Jaffa and became a major general in the Israeli Air Force. He would come to represent the first generation of Jews since the Maccabees who would defend themselves successfully in their own land. In 2003, while Eshel was commander of the Tel Nof Air Force Base, the Israeli Air Force was invited with 14 other countries to take part in flying exercises in Poland to celebrate the 85th anniversary of the Polish Air Force. When Eshel was told he would be participating, he decided that he would only participate if a ceremony and flyover of the death camp Auschwitz would be included in the schedule. The Polish authorities were not wild about the idea, but eventually Israeli officials prevailed. As the Israeli F-16s set out on their course to fly over the camps that saw the destruction of Europe's Jews, Ido Nehushtan, the head of the Israeli Air Force, opened the ceremonies on the ground of Auschwitz with a short speech in Hebrew. He told the gathered crowd of dignitaries and survivors, "We came in order to see the places of mass annihilation, to walk the streets of the ghetto, to march through the forest to the death pits, to pass through the gates of the death camps, in order to try and imagine the tremendous tragedy on an individual, family, and collective level." As the general honored the memory of the victims, Commander Eshel and his squadron emerged overhead, and through his radio, he conveyed a message that would become famous to all Israelis. "We, the Air Force pilots in the skies of the camp of horrors, rose up from the ashes of the millions of victims. We carry their silent cry. We salute their bravery and promise to protect the Jewish nation and its land, Israel." Since the end of the Holocaust and the birth of the State of Israel, the hatred of our people that made mass destruction in Europe possible has diminished. For the first time in a millennia, the might of a Jewish military force has overwhelmed its enemies. It has deterred would-be enemies. It has reinvigorated both the Jew both in the diaspora and in Israel. It has allowed our people not only to rise from the ashes, but to raise our heads high up with the world's greatest powers. Israel's friendship with the United States has resulted in an unbreakable bond with the international arena's most imposing and moral force. And American Jews in the post-World War II era have created and maintained one of the most prosperous, productive, and influential Jewish communities the world has ever known. The new Jew in the United States has grown accustomed to freedom in ways that Jews over the last 2,000 years could never have imagined. We are emancipated, we are powerful, we are represented, and today, just as we are saying goodbye to the final survivors of the Holocaust, we are once again witnessing a rebirth of anti-Semitism in its newest mutation. A perfect storm of Israel bashing, BDS ignorance, white supremacy, fear of the immigrant, have all once again assigned to the Jew the role of the evildoer. There is a formula we know too well. Whether it is "The Jews are our misfortune," or "Jews will not replace us," the horrific refrain never seems to be eradicated. There were once two Jewish men who were sitting together on a park bench in the mid-1930s Germany. One of the men was reading the Jewish paper, The Forward. Each page detailed new Nazi restrictions and laws aimed at marginalizing Jews from society, and how the Nazis blamed the Jews from all of society's ills. The other man was reading Der Stürmer, the Nazi newspaper. His friend asked him, "How can you bear to read that Nazi trash?" He responded, "In The Forward, all I read about is how we, the Jews, are the cause of all of Germany's problems. But in the Nazi paper it says, we control the banks, we control the press, we control the business, Jews run the whole country. I wanted to read some good news for a change." Then and today, there are those who always seem to blame their problems on us. The Jews of Germany were among the most assimilated Jews in the world. They could not believe that the country they fought for in World War I would turn on them so quickly. But as enmeshed as they were in German society, they were nothing compared to the position of Jews today in America. And that may be why this new recent wave of anti-Semitism has hit us so hard. The tragedy in Pittsburgh seemed like an exclamation point to a radical rise of Jew hatred and white supremacy that has emerged over the last couple of years. The internet, the political climate today, the rise of radicalism across the globe have inspired white nationalists to come up from under their rocks and engage in acts of intimidation, vandalism, bomb threats, violence, and even murder. Last year, at the Reform Rabbis Conference in Cincinnati, we were addressed by Roberta Kaplan, a lawyer who represented the Charlottesville residents injured in the 2017 rally against white supremacists, neo-Nazis, and other affiliated hate groups. She told us that in her research, delving into the world of these vile groups, in their chat rooms, their websites, their manifestos, one thing she learned was that no matter how much they hated the immigrant, no matter how much they hated African Americans, non-whites of any kind, there was one seething hatred, superior to all others, that consistently and vehemently overshadowed any other: their hatred for the Jewish people. With this menace gaining new traction, it is no wonder that we feel intimidated and afraid in our houses of study and worship, that we are frightful in the streets. And some of us are wondering, what are the prospects of our future in this country? Is this a fad that will soon blow by? Or is this new wave a trend that has the capacity to intensify and become even more dangerous? And while this new mutation of anti-Semitism has reinvigorated the hate mongers whose disillusionment with life and society has led them to the morally bankrupt pursuit of white supremacy, anti-Semitism continues to flourish in the world of academia, on college campuses, in the world of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Over the past year, we were pained when we saw swastikas drawn on synagogue in Carmel, Indiana, and where a Jewish cemetery was desecrated in St. Louis. We were devastated by horrific shootings in Pittsburgh and Poway, California. But we were also angered and disheartened when the University of North Carolina and the Duke University Department of Middle East and Islamic Studies co-sponsored an Israel-bashing conference camouflaged as a conference on Gaza this past March. We are discouraged every time a university professor tweets or states an opinion that is at best virulently anti-Israel and at worst plainly anti-Semitic. This past year, Tablet magazine reported on one professor from a distinguished liberal arts college who tweeted, "Jews behave like Nazis, Zionism is genocide, and the Bible commands the chosen people to wipe out every living thing." When Jewish students complained to the administration, they were told to blame themselves for not doing enough to help oppressed groups on campus. This is just one example of many that have been reported on day in and day out, some that I've heard about personally from Temple youth who are now in college, others from university professors and staff around the country. It seems actually that each day there is a new instance of Jew-hating taking place in the halls that are supposed to be reserved for honest and open academic pursuit. We shouldn't forget that at the Wannsee Conference, where the architects of the final solution met to discuss putting into motion the infrastructure of the Holocaust, the majority of Nazis sitting around the table held PhDs. The academic elite are in no way immune from the poison of anti-Semitism. They're not immune from intolerance or hatred. With this wave of hostility coming from one side and the reemergence of white nationalism from the other, the American Jew today feels the crunch of hostility at a level that has not been seen in years and, frankly, we thought would never be seen again. Added to the very difficult conditions for Jews in Europe, where anti-Semitism rises in the margins while the majority lacks sympathy, and the constant turmoil of the Middle East, threats from Iran and its terrorist proxies, the ongoing Palestinian conflict, one might wonder where we as Jews today can go for solace and for hope that the future will bring a better day. The story of the American Jew is a start. Since the end of World War II and the birth of the State of Israel, the American Jewish community began embarking on a process of assimilation and integration in this country that has only continued with time. Our accomplishments in virtually every field have been prolific, and the sight of Jews in any field is not questioned or discouraged. Anti-Semitism has become politically incorrect and even reprehensible in most circles. And yet we forget that before World War II, Jewish identification and pride in this country was at an all-time low. We lived with quotas, professional and academic discrimination, social restrictions, and various other forms of isolation. But the war brought change. Change to the world, devastation to European Jewry, rebirth to the Holy Land, and the creation of a new community there, a renewed sense of identity for the American Jew. Some 550,000 Jews served in the American Armed Forces. Most of them were in Europe, and they saw firsthand how an enemy unlike any other the Jew had ever known unleashed its terror on our people. These GIs came home after bearing witness to humiliation and annihilation, after meeting death camp survivors, after walking through the ghettos and through the gas chambers. So many of them recognized their unique responsibility to defeat Hitler's armies, and in addition to rescuing their Jewish brethren in the process. Men like Lieutenant Seymour Weissman from the Bronx, platoon leader of the 104th Infantry Timberwolf Division, who after entering Germany and driving the Nazis out of Cologne, joined with a priest from a local Catholic church to seek out Jewish children in hiding and reunite them with the survivors of other Jewish families. The scenes of Europe deeply affected the GIs, and they returned to the States eager to reinvigorate their Jewish identities, combat anti-Semitism, constructed infrastructure that would house a Jewish community on the cusp of Renaissance. In the 1950s, with Jews moving out to the suburbs, synagogue membership increased from 20% level of American Jews in the 30s to 60% by 1960. Armed with a new mission to support Holocaust survivors and help build the State of Israel, Jews in this country found that the synagogue was the place where they could interact with other Jews and nurture their Jewish identities. Jews had a new sense of purpose, and after helping their country to victory in the war, they experienced a boost to their self-esteem nationwide. In 1940, the United Jewish Appeal raised $14 million. But by 1946, they were raising over $130 million annually. While virtually every Jewish community in the world was either annihilated or reeling after the Holocaust, and the nascent Jewish state was trying to get on its feet, the Jewish community of the United States was experiencing for the first time a generation of Jews all born in America, starting to be accepted culturally and professionally, reinvigorated both by world events and their own unique opportunities. For the American Jew, the age of the shtetl Jew who feared pogrom and cowered in the face of public authority, or the urban Jew who feared roundup, ghettoization, and being led meekly to the slaughter, was over. The new era of Jew, who bears arms and fights, who conquers his enemies, who succeeds in business, who speaks English without an accent, who is accepted in universities, who can open up his own country club, had finally arrived. And its mission was defined. The American Jew would take responsibility for Jews who couldn't take care of themselves, and they wouldn't apologize to anyone who got in their way. This attitude has served as the spine and backbone of a community that has flourished and contributed infinitely to this country. The new Jew in America found ways to defend itself and to aid Jews around the world. The new American Jew recognized in Israel a brother and treated its community like family. The new American Jew marched arm in arm and didn't back down until the Iron Curtain was lifted and our brothers and sisters were freed from the ruthless grip of the Soviet Union. The new American Jew championed civil rights for everyone, social justice and social action in a way that inspired peace-loving people throughout our nation. And we did it all while building our institutions, nurturing our communities, establishing day schools and summer camps, and cherishing our role in the passing of Torah from one generation to another. The last few decades since World War II has been one of Judaism's finest and most prolific ages. We, along with our parents and our parents' parents, have created something that has been, is, and will always be bigger than hate and bigotry. And perhaps, for the first time in history, we have created a force that is primed and ready to combat fierce anti-Semitism in the diaspora and prevail. The image of the new Jew is one that does not crumble in the face of adversity. Yes, we have real problems on college campuses and from radical fringe communities. Yes, we have a continued battle ahead of us, whether it is a congresswoman or a college professor, a white nationalist or an anti-Israel agitator. There is no doubt that a new mutation of anti-Semitism has arisen. In the past, these waves have overwhelmed Jewish communities. But this country and this moment is unique. It is unique because of the principles that our country has been founded on. It is unique because of the number of Jews who have immigrated here, were welcomed here, and have been successful here. It is unique because in this place we have built a community with strength and respect never known before anywhere in the diaspora. We are the new Jews. We are new Jews like the singer Matisyahu, who when performing at a sold-out concert in Barcelona, in the middle of his show was confronted with Israel-bashing, Palestinian flag-wagging, anti-Semitic, epithet-hurling throng who interrupted his show time and again. And in his response, Matisyahu began looking right in their eyes and singing his popular song, Jerusalem, with all the spirit he could muster, and chanting in front of them, Jerusalem, if I forget you, let my right hand forget what it is supposed to do. The new Jew is Gal Gadot, the Israeli actress who suffers tremendous abuse online for being Israeli, but never considers hiding her identity or posting her love for her country. The new Jews are Israeli doctors on the border with Syria, who treat wounded victims from the bloody Syrian civil war, even though they know it will not change Syrian perspective on Israel or Jews. And when asked why they do it, they say, we do it for us, because we cannot stand by and not help while others are suffering. The new Jews are students at the University of Miami Hillel and other Hillels around the country who stand up to BDS supporters and other Israel bashers, but do it with dignity and grace and without hate in their hearts. The new Jew is we, who are sitting here today and recognize quite obviously that there is a real problem with anti-Semitism, both globally and nationally, but at the same time know that we will not here in this country be cowed, intimidated, or made afraid to be proud of our Judaism in our home or in our streets, in our workplaces or in our schools. We are the new Jews who will not be placed on the defensive anymore. We will go on the offensive. We will root out hate wherever we find it. We will partner with our non-Jewish friends to make our world a better and safer place. And we will continue this discussion with our elected officials and make sure that they know how important their leadership is on this issue in times like this. We have reached a moment in history that calls for us to hearken back to the Jews of the late 1940s and early 50s. Now is our time to do what they did. Now is the time to rebuild and re-inspire the American Jewish community, to establish and energize learning and culture, tradition and custom, and to recommit to our faith in our people, as did the GIs who returned from Europe after witnessing our people's destruction. They returned in shock at what had befallen our people, but they came back to these shores more determined than ever to make certain that the future would be different than the past. It is their spirit returning to these shores that we must channel, as we must recognize that during this moment of crisis, when adversity is beset upon us from all sides, that we do have the wherewithal, the resources, and the moral mandate to defend our people and promote our heritage. In this time of fragility, in place of cowering, our neighbors will see, just as they did after World War II, that we are not hiding, we are building. We are not diminished, we are growing. We are not weakened, we are expanding. And we will continue to hold our heads up high as we do it, because we know that our mission is just, our objective is pure, and our resolve is fierce. There may not be a cure for anti-Semitism. We may never purge it from every dark corner or from underneath every mossy rock. But there is a vaccine for this virus. And we become immunized when we decide, with our own dogged determination, to stand up to those who see Judaism as our weakness. Their words should not frighten us. They should embolden us Their grotesque efforts to define themselves not by their own character, but by hatred of the other, must be met by us and our allies with a resounding display of moral courage and fortitude. Never again means that never again will we allow the lowest common denominator of humanity to define who we are as a people. We will remind ourselves that we descend from the nation that was lifted from the bowels of slavery and raised to the heights of spiritual and physical redemption. And as our antibodies grow in strength inside of us, as we become impervious to any external threat, we will set an example for ourselves and for our community. We will teach them and remind ourselves that our values, our faith, and our accomplishments have left us primed and prepared to meet this or any other challenge that comes our way. Today, as fear creeps closer from seemingly every direction, when the natural tendency might be to recoil and even shy away from Jewish identity, I find myself prouder than ever to count myself among the Jewish people, to wear my kippah proudly in public, knowing that its presence signals to others that I am someone who lives a life inspired by the wisdom of our tradition. Today I am prouder than ever to stand up and say that I am Jewish, that my people will prevail, that our Torah values are righteous, and that the good and decent people that make up the backbone of our country will stand with us, that our brothers and sisters in Israel will be safe and secure and continue to thrive, that those who threaten our well-being will one day be eradicated, and that our voices in unison will hold firm and not quiver as we declare in one unified and imposing declaration, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai, the nation of Israel lives. Amen.